The Vikings hold on for win 3. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Lago Vista Football Show, brought to you by the Lago Vista Booster Clubs. As the Vikings hold on against Marion 52-34. Lago Vista was in control. Third quarter kind of got away from them, but they were able to get things going again, keep the lead, and get the win. Now it's on to a very underrated Salado team. I think this is going to be a great district opener for Lago Vista. And yeah, that's right, folks. It's district play. Every game counts for the rest of the year for the Vikings. And we're here, as always, each and every week to talk about it. And of course, we will be talking to the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips. We'll do that when we come back, as we'll talk to Marion Wynn and the district opener right here on the Lago Vista Football Show on L4 Media. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Lago Vista Football Show, now joined by the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips. And, Coach, good win last week. That was a very interesting game.
Yeah, no doubt. Played well, came out, moved the ball, got down, kicked a field goal. Things were moving offensively pretty good. Defense, I thought, was playing good, got a couple of stops, got a little bit of a lead. And then as the game wore on, we had some busts, we had some special teams mistakes, little things like that kept the score interesting the entire night. But their coaches did a good job preparing them, and their kids got after us. So I think they were a team that continues to improve every week. So they're doing a good job there.
Well, I was going to ask you, how frustrating was it that more than a couple times you had that final nail in the coffin, and Marion would, as you say, would come up with a big play. How frustrating for you on the sidelines was that?
It's, the main comment I got after the game was how long of a game it was. And part of that was that fact right there that we couldn't just finish. We would get 3 scores ahead, and then we'd give up something, whether it be a double move or a busted coverage or, a special teams mistake, something to that effect. Offensively, we'd go out there and have a big play and then get a penalty and call it all back. Had a touchdown called back. It was about a 50-yard run, and several, first downs that got called back. And we're just trying to get off the field and get this game over with, and they just hung around. So, I guess a good job by them, but really for us to be able to be clean towards the end of the game. We did have some injuries. We had some kids banged up, and, we had some backup kids in there from time to time, and everybody's got to learn. So we're going to have to do it with the entire roster this year. We know that. So some good coachable moments.
Well, one of the things that I would say is a definite positive, the offense, back-to-back week now. You've had season highs after you felt y'all had struggled through the first 2 games. So you had to be happy with the offense.
I thought we did a pretty good job this week of, kind of figuring out who we are. The last couple of weeks we've gotten better. We've learned some of our strengths, some things that we're going to be able to depend on. Certainly still lots of areas to work on, but, statistically we were right at 200 yards rushing, right at 200 yards passing, and that is not purposeful. That's us trying to take what is given to us on any given night and to come out, balanced like that. I thought it was, pretty cool. 2 rushing touchdowns in our short yardage package and the rest of them in the air. So I thought quarterback's been throwing the ball really well. Tripp's been doing a good job for us there, and we're spreading it out to, I think, receiving-wise, 6 different kids caught balls. So, I think things are looking up offensively.
Now, defensively, do you just say, hey, this is just one of those weird games where we blew some coverages we normally don't, or is there some concern going forward after this performance?
Honestly, not terribly concerned, really. I think our kids, the other comment after the game was, man, your kids will run and hit. And that is something that there was pads popping Friday night. It was fun to watch the effort of our kids and them flying around and making tackles in space and, having some big hits and some big plays that kind of motivates everyone else around you when things are going good. Yeah, we had some bust. We were missing a key component to our defensive line, which is he helps. I think we only gave up 50-something yards rushing anyway, but he's pressure on the quarterback, and so with him gone, backups in, just the effectiveness level is not quite. Your backups are not your starters, and so when you're missing somebody, you miss them, and I think that was part of it. They had a little more time to throw than we'd like, but overall, I think the kids are understanding their role and what they're supposed to be doing, and I feel good about where we are right now going into district.
I do have to ask you one thing. This is before we go into the next week's or this week's opponent. You talked about the end of the game and how it just seemed like it was a forever game. What are your thoughts on the new? I know they don't call it 2-minute warning, the 2-minute timeout, but what are your thoughts on that in high school?
I don't think we need it, honestly. As much clock stoppage as there is already in a high school game with the amount of, just typical, at least small school ball, the amount of penalties that we have in the game, injuries, you got a lot of two-way players, you get cramps, you get all kind of stuff. And, we probably had 6 stoppages of play for injuries, coaches using their timeouts, and then you also get that 2-minute timeout. I mean, if we're going to do that, I understand the concept. Let's stop it so that the clock operator understands at this point we're running on 2-minute time now instead of normal clock operation time. And that's great, but make it a 15-second timeout and make an announcement, something to that effect, and stop it from there. But I don't know. I mean, when you have the ball and you're like, hey, we're about to get this 2-minute timeout, that's great. But otherwise, I think it did help contribute to a long night. It was, even if it's just 2, 4, 5 more minutes, whatever it is. But I don't know that it's necessary at our level.
All right, well, let's move on as you start the district schedule against Salado, a team that came in after a really quick turnaround last year with a new coach. They were expecting some big things this year, but they lose their starting quarterback. But this is still a very dangerous team.
They are. They're talented. Coach Beatty's doing an awesome job with them there. They've got a good staff that has got these kids doing things to make them successful. They're a lot. For us defensively, the amount of formations that they get in, some of the, kind of quirky one-offs, empty sets, unbalanced sets, those kind of things where you have to line up and be sound. They'll run some hurry up on you as well. And so, if you mess something up, you're about to get it again and in a hurry. So I think it's a good game for us early in the district season, that if we can prepare for a team that has this much stuff to work on, then those are things that we can put in our tool belt for later on in the season. Offensively, we're looking at a sound defense that likes to take a few shots, a few chances. They run a lot of games up front, bringing some pressure. So, pass protection, run blocking, your gap scheme, zone seam stuff. When you've got tackles looping and linebackers coming from depth, that's something that if you can figure it out, you can really make some big plays happen. But if not, they can drop you for a loss and get you behind the sticks.
I was going to say, you're going up against a defense that's very feast or famine for you and for them. So you're probably going to see some big plays from both sides when you're all on the field.
Right. I think knowing that going in keeps you from getting frustrated when things aren't going your way. We would like to stay ahead of the chains all the time and be in control of what plays that we're calling and not feel like we're being reactive. I think that's when we're at our best, when the coaches and the players are kind of relaxed and things are flowing, and we're doing things that we're comfortable with, and we're having success, and we're moving the chains. You get a couple first downs, you start feeling pretty loose and playing fast. And I think the opposite happens defensively. You start kind of tightening up a little bit, and maybe you feel like you need to take a chance, or maybe you have to play super safe. And we'll see how that plays out as the game goes along.
Well, going back to your own defense, and you brought up the point about how they like to just throw so many different looks at you. And I think that's one of the things fans don't understand, that when y'all play a team like this, just how much as a coach, y'all have to decide, okay, where do we focus our attention on all these? Because we can't, you can't coach every position that you're going to see, or formation you're going to see. So how do you balance that?
Well, I think you have to have a philosophy that covers things. You have to simplify it for the kids. A lot of this is just eye candy. It's just trying to get you to, we joke with kids, hey, look up here, and really the action is somewhere else. And so for them to kind of break it down and simplify what they're seeing and then have rules that apply to it, I think it helps you, because, they may still have 10 formations that they don't have on film yet. We may see some new stuff, and that, of course, happens every week. You catch a team like this after an off week, you really might find some new stuff out. So your kids have got to be comfortable making adjustments on the fly according to, there's only so many ways you can line up ultimately, but they have to be able to make those adjustments and rules that apply to most everything.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. As always, we want to thank Coach Phillips for joining us here. Man, 13-4 Division II is going to be interesting this year. We knew it was going to be once Wimberley and Navarro made their changes. You look at the other teams, Gonzales is sitting there at 3-1. They seem to be talented, if not inconsistent, over the last few years. Curious to see how they're going to do. They had 12 starters coming back from a team, and they get another new coach in Lyndon Hamilton. And so far, he's already matched last year's win total. So I think it's going to be one of those districts. There's not going to be many easy wins. Even a Smithfield team at 0-4, when you look at their schedule, they've been in a couple of the games. They could easily be 2-2, and they return a lot. They returned 18 starters. Now, of course, it was from an 0-10 team, so you have that theory of it's great to have so many returning starters, but if the program is bad, if the talent's not there, maybe it's not good. They're another team that has a new coach, Lane Newman there. This whole district just feels like it was upheaved this past year, mainly Navarro and Wimberley being one. And man, Wimberley's had the interesting season so far at 2-2, where they've been competitive at every one of them. They've won a game by 1 point, lost a game by 1 point, won a game by 7, and lost a game by 7. So you can't get more uneven, or maybe that is consistent. It's 2-2. So this is going to be a fun district. And, the great thing is Navarro and Wimberley start off this week. So we'll already have one of the favorites have a loss to start district play. Again, if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, you can email the show. Just simply email me at terry@s2ssport.com. And until next week, this has been the Lago Vista Football Show on L4 Media.